couldn't even understand what was happening. Going through a lot of struggles in their own ways, typically more individualistic, and it's a tough question. Like both Ukrainian and Polish people they could have grown up in the same city, but they could have a totally different story.
Jerrick, can you share your background and say why did you decide to go to Poland to volunteer?
So I've been asked this question many, many times, and I always tell people that back in 2022, I graduated from UCSD with my bachelor's degree, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life yet. But I just knew that after 4 years of school, I wanted to go on a vacation. So I had plans to go to Europe for some time. But my brother, Jermaine, he suggested that I should make more out of my vacation, do something more meaningful. So he connected me with Vicky, who was in charge of Team Ukraine Love, operating in Warsaw, Poland. And after some time thinking about what I wanted to do, I was just like, why not? I've never done something so, unique or different, and I wanted to take this opportunity to learn more about myself by helping others. So after not much convincing at all, we bought a flight that was 1 week into the future, and then I just went straight to Poland right after.
So basically, you skipped your vacation and you started to work immediately.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Okay. Did you have any expectations about this trip?
Actually, I knew nothing about Poland or much about the war. Actually, I feel like in America, our news coverage didn't do a good job at keeping us up to date with what was happening in the war up to that point. When the war first broke out, we got so many news on it. It's everywhere, right? Because it's like the new trending topic. But after a few months, it simmered out, and it's not as common anymore. So I kind of just lost track of what was happening in the conflict. So when I showed up, I was just keeping everything open and just trying to learn everything I can about what was happening and how I can help.
So, as I know, you're Malaysian-American.
Yes.
So you have kind of mix of culture.
Mm-hmm.
And when you went to Ukraine, or to Poland, to talk to Ukrainians and to other people, did you have some stereotypes in your mind?
Not quite, but when I did land, a lot of people that I talked to on the plane flights over, they did tell me, they did briefly mention that Eastern Europeans tend to be a little bit more conservative and just a little bit quieter, not so much as bubbly as the Westerners do. So I went in there just expecting it to just be a little bit more difficult to meet new people and talk to them and just opening up and having a good conversation. But that quickly turned out to be false, because I think everyone was really excited to learn that I'm from America, and they were just like, oh, let's talk about this, talk about that, and they start sharing their stories. It was super welcoming, and it was actually a really pleasant surprise.
What was the biggest challenge then? The
biggest challenge, 100%, the language barrier, because I know everyone's in a city as big as Warsaw, you have a lot of people working in the business world internationally. Mm-hmm. And you would find half of the Polish people to speak English. But that was a little bit of a kind of a false notion for me, because I actually had a lot of trouble communicating with people, because I think even though people have Polish people have learned how to speak English, they prefer to speak in Polish or just their mother tongue, which is more comfortable. I totally understand. So when I got there, I was just speaking normal English. Mm-hmm. And I realized that not everybody can understand me, and oh man, that was a really big challenge to navigate around, because I remember my second night over there, I wanted to get just food and groceries from a local żabka, and I couldn't even understand what was happening.
So did you have to change your language? Because I remember when I just started to learn English.
Yeah.
And when these crazy Americans are coming to us, and they're so cool and talking in English.
Right.
And I'm I understand nothing, because my English was, Kyiv is the capital of Ukraine. I love food. Like my
Yeah.
language was so simple that I
Yeah.
just couldn't understand Americans or British people. So did you have to change something in your language to make people around you understand you?
Yes, I think it's a really interesting topic because now that we're currently in Malaysia as well, I find it weird that we tend to adjust our language to better suit the people we're talking to. So I had to do something similar here in Malaysia as I did in Poland, where we try to break down our more complex words into simpler, kind of like bite-sized messages. So you like break your message down into smaller, digestible pieces. So when you say it to someone else who doesn't usually use English as their native a primary language, so they can understand what you're trying to say. Because textbook English is very different from normal speaking English, and so I had to it's kind of like I go do this, and then that's it. You skip all the details. You just tell them exactly what you're trying to tell them without any fluff.
Yeah, sometimes you also even skip tenses. Doesn't matter if it was in the past, in the future, just I do this.
Yeah, and you just leave it up to them to guess. If it's I did this in the past, I'm gonna go do this, or I'm doing it right now.
Yeah. So how is it possible to help people volunteering if you don't really speak local language?
I will say a big part of it has to do with technology now. I know a big part of my experience was using Google Translate, especially when it comes to me speaking with someone who doesn't speak English at all. It surprisingly does a really good job at just getting the basic message across. So if I just type up something on Google and translate it, they'll just say, "Oh yeah, I get you. I understand. That's what you're doing," and that's usually enough to just communicate between the two people that don't speak the same language. And not to say that it was an easy process. I wanted to help in a lot of different aspects, communicating with all the people that I was working with to feel like we're a really smooth flowing team. We're all coherently working together, but that's usually not the case because we have to, they can communicate within themselves, no problem. But when it comes to me, they have to, stop the process and quickly type up a message. Let me know what they're doing. And then I'm like, okay, so I understand now. And then I can help. So just because I wanted to help and volunteer doesn't mean it's always the most efficient way to do things over there. And I had to, get used to accepting that even though I want to help, I can't really help them in the way that I want to. So it was a learning process, but everyone was super inclusive, and they know I come from a good place, and so they want to include me and let me help out as well. So I was super appreciative of all that.
So what kind of nationalities were helping there?
It was actually a big group, a cluster. So immediately there were Polish people helping, and we had one of the volunteer staffs there as well. He was a Belarusian guy, and we had Ukrainian as well, and I can't remember exactly, but I believe we also had a Russian volunteer there as well. And it's just such a huge melting pot. And a while later, we had some volunteers come from, surprisingly, the United States, California again. So I got to meet a lot of these people, like-minded people who would come over here to share their arts and just get everybody feeling better, get the morales up. Everyone, it's easier to push through the tough times, when you're feeling better. So it's really nice that everyone's coming along from different cultures and different cultural groups,
So mostly when you have been helping Ukrainians, there were mostly women and kids, right?
Right.
Did you notice if there is any similarity or if there is any differences between Ukrainian women and American women who you spent time with before?
So that's a tough question because I want to acknowledge that the Ukrainian women that I had the opportunity to talk to and get to understand a little bit better, they were in a situation where they are seeking refuge in a different country away from their home, and being a war refugee has to be really, really tough. I cannot, begin to understand how that would feel like, because I fortunately have never been in that situation. So I understand it's harder to be your best self and to show like your best quality as a person when you are going through so much. But I feel like a lot of the Ukrainian women that I got to talk to, albeit through Google Translate, were just super they're like super family members. Like they're holding things down, and it's like I understand that they had they recognize that they have a part to play in their family, while their brothers and husbands or fathers are staying behind to fight for the country. They're out here taking care of the kids, and it's really surprising to see that a lot of the Ukrainian women over there were taking care of not just their own family, but all the other families around them as well. It's like this community that they foster it together. Like they accept that they're all in this together, and they're just looking out for everyone. And even when I was there to volunteer. They also took care of me. So I didn't feel like I was like an outsider. Like they would cook dinners for me and just take care of me if I stayed later, and it was super heartwarming. And not to say that American women don't do that too. I coming from a kind of like a diverse background, living in Malaysia and then going out to like California in a predominantly Asian and Hispanic community, it was also a very home, family values first, like take care of your own people and then move out there. But I also have had the privilege to live in different cities, and I noticed that on average, the American women, are typically more individualistic, and I think it's kind of this notion that we're trying to foster here, is that everybody can make it, and if you work hard, if you take care of yourself, and you just go out there and do your thing, you can make it. So it's really great, it's pushing everyone to be the best version of themselves, but sometimes we sacrifice the people around us a little bit, or we focus too much on ourselves. So I feel like, not to say that all American women are the same in that aspect, but definitely American women are more individualistic, while the Ukrainian and I think in a broader term, the Eastern European culture is very family first. They would sacrifice their own ambition to take care of their family.
Sure. I bet you that is good because I know a lot of women who suffer a lot because of that. So I would like to change this, but I'm not sure that it will be soon.
It's a tough battle to fight,
So did you see also difference between Ukrainian and Polish people? Because you spent quite a lot of time together with them. I think 40 days, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there a difference between them or similarity?
I feel like it's. I don't want to say that they're the same or they're necessarily different.
Cannot, because I'm Ukrainian. You just cannot say what you're saying.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't had enough. I know 40 days is a lot of days, but I definitely don't feel like I got to. I was critically, looking at things in that aspect. So I can't really give a really good answer on that. So, but I would say the similarities wise, both Ukrainian and Polish people were super, super welcoming to me. I'm not sure if that's if I got super lucky, if the stereotypes were just all wrong, you Eastern Europeans are a little colder and they're not going to talk to you as much. But I don't know. I think my experience was really good. So I think generally speaking, Polish people were super easy to just hang out with. I remember going to restaurants and just striking out conversations with people sitting there. And when I was in the Ukrainian refugee center, most of the time, everybody there would just be a little bit interested and curious about who I was and why I was there. So they would come up to talk to me, and they would want to get to know who I was and what my background was. So it was really welcoming. I didn't feel like I was alienated in any sense. So it's in that aspect, I think Polish people and Ukrainian people are very similar in the ways that they are just super welcoming.
Okay, so like when you have been going there, and you definitely told your friends that you are going there.
Yes.
And did they say, "Oh yeah, of course, go, it's cool," or like, "No, no, no, don't go, just stop"? Like,
Yeah.
what was the reaction of your friends or family?
Yeah. At first, my family were the biggest supporters. They're like, "Yeah, let's do it. You know, no problem." And my friends, they were a little bit skeptical. They were like, "Oh, wait, you're going to Eastern Europe. You're going to be so close to the war. Are you going to be safe? Are you going to get caught up in the war? Will you be able to come back home? You know, will you potentially get injured in war?" And at first, I was like, "Wait, will I really get injured in war?" But then I looked at the map and I'm like, well, Warsaw and like Poland is quite a ways away from the front lines, and also it's very safe. You know, when I got there, I knew what I was getting into, and it proved me right. It was like Warsaw was way like kind of away from like the heat of the battle, and generally speaking, it's very safe. I had to check in with all my friends. I let them know that hey, it's totally fine here. Nothing is going wrong, and if anything, I feel like a lot of people get deterred, or they feel a little bit desensitized to, or like sorry, I can't find the right words. Desensitized is not the right word, but they feel a little bit deterred from going to volunteer in places like Warsaw in that context, because they feel like it's a little bit dangerous, and also it might not be worth it for them. But I feel like that's, I think that comes down to just not being well informed about where things are happening and what is okay and where it's fine to visit. So in that sense, I had to just inform my friends, let them know, educate them a little bit on why it's totally fine. And if anything, they should try and do something similar too. It's always really nice to, you know, understand that the privilege that you come from, and to just help out whenever you can.
So do you have any advice to people who want to go also volunteer, especially to different country?
I think the first thing you could always do is just reach out, you know, just look up informations about it. Think about what causes you want to help with, and where you want to be at, then just reach out. I think if you don't reach out, you can't really build that connection, and it's harder to get things like set things in motion. So you just have to do the first step of reaching out, and people love having more volunteers to come and, you know, join in their cause, because it's always so nice to have humanitarian like aid, and in fact I feel like we need more of that all around our world. So I think if you want to do something like that, just go ahead, look it up, reach out, and you're gonna find so much information.
And do you have any tips for people who go somewhere and they have so many stereotypes in their head that may just stop them from helping others? How to fight with that?
How to fight with that is to understand that when you go to a totally different culture, totally different country to volunteer, you are, you know, in their eyes, you are the foreigner. You know, you're the person that's standing out, and the best way you can bring yourself to join in this like community and to really get like the most out of your experience, and also to truly be a part of this like great you know, this greater community, is to just try not to judge everybody off the surface, because when it all comes down, everyone has their own, you know, circumstances, right? So I know it sounds like really, it's like, oh, it's just don't judge, you know, like obviously that's really hard
so complicated,
right? It's like so hard to do, right? It's like you just have to be there, and the more present you are in those situations, the more you start to realize that they're going through a lot of struggles in their own ways. And although it's not the ones that you're going through, it's similar in some ways. So you find yourself able to connect with all these people really, you know, really easily once you just get to talk to them. And I know there could be a language barrier. So one way you can learn the language if you want to. It's gonna take a lot of time and effort, but it's super worth it if you could just communicate with them directly.
So did you learn?
I tried learning Ukrainian and Polish, but
Okay.
it was really difficult. I remember smaczno every time before I eat, so I pray bon appetit, and stay dobre.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably two of the most important ones.
Yeah. So it's great. I will say Google Translate or any technology devices that we have nowadays is so powerful that you can get by with a lot of translation and just communication on the surface level that you could get things done. So don't be too afraid of like the language barrier because that is not going to be your biggest concern, you know. Just being there is the first challenge. So being present.
So after these 40 days of helping, volunteering, talking to people, traveling around, I know that you went also to other countries after that. What was your biggest lesson out of that kind of trip?
I feel like in this 40 days of just being away from home and being able to just immerse myself in this different like part of the world that I've never been to and talking to all these unique people from different walks of life, the biggest lesson that I got was definitely that I didn't know anything about like a lot of the different peoples that, you know, go around their life, like go around their days, living their own life in a different part of the world, just like experiencing all these different kind of experiences. And I felt really inspired to go and meet all these people. And I know it's like a super grand plan. It's a big dream to go and travel all the time. You know, you have work, you have to be able to finance all these things. But because of that, I felt like from this 40-day trip, I've learned to be more open-minded and to be more outgoing and try to just talk to strangers and get to know what their story is like, because there's so many unique people in our own cities that we probably will never talk to. It's like they could have grown up in the same city, but they could have a totally different story, and you would just not know if you never talked to them. So from this 40-day trip, I had so many like just blessed encounters with all these unique people, especially the refugees, as well as the bright, you know, Ukrainian tech startup people that were just so full of energy and passion. They're just like, oh man, we could think about doing this and this so they could help their own country. You know, there's so many, all these brilliant peoples that you might never get to meet if you just don't put yourself out there. So from this whole like voyage that I did around Eastern Europe, I definitely feel very inspired to just go out there and meet new people.
Thanks. I think really a lot of people can feel you, everything what you said, especially that kind of trip was your first trip to Europe, as I know, right?
Yeah.
So it was like first solo trip, first trip to Europe, and immediately volunteering. Oh, I'm even crying. Thanks a lot, really, that you did for so much for people, especially for Ukrainians. You know, I'm Ukrainian.
Of course.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and I hope that you could also motivate some people to do the same.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. It was a pleasure. It was my pleasure.
Thanks. Oh.
Are you okay?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm always crying like that. Nice. I think it's good.